All right, cool.
I'm going to say a few introductory things and then that. Oh, cool. That's good. Great.
Cool. It's working. Okay, good.
Hi, everyone. I'm here with Richard and Matt at the Hall Library on the south side of Chicago, stomping grounds of one Gwendolyn Brooks, who we are reading together today. We're going to be reading My Dreams, My Works Must Wait Till After Hell by Gwendolyn Brooks. Take it away, Matt.
Okay. My dreams, my works must wait till after hell. I hold my honey and I store my bread in little jars and cabinets of my will. I label clearly, and each latch and lid I bid be firm till I return from hell. I am very hungry, I am incomplete, and none can tell when I may dine again. No man can give me any word but wait, the puny light. I keep eyes pointed in, hoping that when the devil days of my hurt drag out to their last dregs, and I resume on such legs as are left me, in such heart as I can manage, remember to go home, my taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread old purity could love.
It's a heavy one.
It is heavy, and it's hard to read in parts.
Sure. What was tripping you up? What was hard to read for you?
What the devil days of my hurt drag out to their last dregs, and I resume. That in there is very hard to read out
Sure.
loud. All those D's.
Yeah. The devil days of my hurt drag out to their last dregs, and I resume on such legs. Yeah, devil days of my hurt. Any other first impressions?
Dreams, my works, in the title, certainly.
Right.
Because we just came off the reading the Kitchenette building. We were talking about the dream in there and what the dream means, especially to black poets. So that's one word that really stuck out.
I think the pairing of dreams and works is important here, right? I mean, my dreams, my works. She's almost in that title. She's clarifying as she's going, right? She's not just saying, my dreams must wait till after hell, or my works must wait till after hell. She's saying, my dreams, by which I mean my works, must wait till after hell. So that's an interesting, pairing of dream and work.
What do you think about label clearly? What has she labeled clearly?
Well, she has labeled clearly the honey and bread in the little jars.
But, cabinets of my will.
Right.
Want,
Right.
desire. Let's see.
Yeah.
To label clearly, right. So that's a good point, Richard. The labeling clearly the contents of the cabinets of her will, right? It's something quite different. And the fact that she has honey and bread and honey in there is interesting. She has something that's, is that the food of the
So
will?
we're not talking about bread and honey at all.
No.
Right.
I think we're talking about her works, her poems.
Her deepest desires.
Well, and at its most elemental level, just things that sustain. Bread and honey are very basic foods that sustain one.
It's the labeling clearly. It's interesting. I'm glad that you brought this up, Richard. I label clearly, and each latch and lid I bid be firm till I return from hell. There's this sort of either it's not quite a settling of accounts, but there's this managing that's happening. It's very managerial here, right? Everything needs to be labeled, everything needs to be stored, everything needs to be put in their proper place, and everything needs to be firm until I get back from hell, which is an interesting, I think, it's when Dante went to hell, it was a little bit different. We're not sure if he cleaned up his apartment first, but I think it's an interesting twist on this this epic descent into hell, that we get from, we get in Dante, that we get in Milton, that we get in Homer. The epic always has this descent into hell. The characters always have to go down in there at some point. And it's kind of a heroic thing usually. But in this case, she starts off in this very domestic, almost anxious place where I need to store and put everything away before I undertake this quest. So it's an interesting reversal, I think, of that trope, or an interesting inversion of that trope. So what does she mean by hell? Does she mean like a Judeo-Christian hell, or?
I'm just left with what we read in, Kitchenette. That, hell refers to something more commonplace.
Yeah.
What's like life without money? What's life like being or desiring to be a black female poet? And that's why I think that, I don't know those first two lines. So if I had to interpolate that, I'd say something like, my intellect, my artistic desire, these are the honey and bread. And that's why they have to go in little jars and cabinets, and you have to control.
Are they things that would stop you from or somehow they would stop you from going to hell, or from going to this hell that you think you have to go to?
I think Emily would say they would.
Right.
But I don't know.
Because if
they're certainly to be held in abeyance.
Okay, that's good.
Gonna go somewhere, and then I'm gonna get back.
She does quote, "Remember to go home," towards the bottom. "I am very hungry. I am incomplete." What do you think that means?
I love that.
The longing to make a poem.
Right. There's that. Sure, the longing comes up as hunger, right? In different ways, but the incompletion.
Well, the incompletion I take, and I'm almost sorry we're being recorded. Like maybe you should shut it off.
We can always edit
it out because I'm not sure I really understand this, and it's. But there's something about the idea of a poem that you can't. The poem is never really the Platonic ideal of what it is. So when you create a poem, it's never really what you wanted, So there's always some sense of incompleteness. Now, I don't know if I expressed that, does that too many question marks?
No, that totally makes sense. That there's an ideal, and then there's the ideal in its sort of practical manifestation or instantiation, which always falls short of the ideal, because then otherwise it wouldn't. The ideal has to somehow transcend it, right?
The perfect poem doesn't exist except as a Platonic ideal.
Well, I was thinking that the "I am incomplete" might relate to the man. No man can give me any word but wait.
Mm. So there's something that she needs.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that she's trying to get, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're not, she's hungry.
But is this, is this an ED kind of hunger? I mean, is she talking about actually wanting something edible here,
Mhm.
or is it more ethereal, or?
Right. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a symbolic hunger, right? I mean,
So, screw the man.
But no man can give me any word but wait. I mean, that's an interesting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So that's the 7th line. No man can give me any word but wait. The puny light. I keep eyes pointed in. So who are these men who are telling her to wait? And what are they, and why, what are they telling her to wait for? Wait to return from hell? No man can give me any word but wait. This, they're kind of asking her, or, not asking her, but frankly, commanding her to be patient. But the puny light.
Do we have any biographical clues? I mean, what was it like to be a black female poet in 1945 or 48?
Well,
Pretty
biograph.
tough, yeah.
We could extrapolate from
I
from
don't-
what we know socially, right?
Yeah.
to probably fill in those gaps.
She was always with, I think Harper and Row was her publisher, which was a big publisher.
Actually, I did read
And,
something before I came tonight, and that she started out with Harper and Row,
Mhm.
and then told them, no,
She left.
I'm going with small presses, small
Oh, wow.
black presses. And
Mhm.
she did that for the
Cool.
rest of her
From
publications.
Yeah.
late 60s on or something.
She was one of the last ones, Detroit Area Free Press or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Mhm.
I can't remember that there were 2 or 3 of them, but she definitely moved away from
Mhm.
the big publishing.
Sure.
But she was also, her husband was also a writer. When they met, I think they met at a writing class, maybe at this library actually, or if not, maybe at the Southside Arts Center, which is just a couple blocks away. But I don't think he ever became a published writer in his lifetime. But I wonder if there's, and she, in interviews, she always said that he was very supportive of her career. But it must have been, that could be part of the man, the husband, or the publishers.
Well, the man is this gendered authority
Yeah.
figure, right? I mean, he's always going to be this problematic, paternalistic or patriarchal authority, right? That who has the luxury to say, "Be patient," right? Like, stay a little longer in hell. Your bread and your honey aren't going anywhere.
Is he reading too much in again to think of Dickinson and, her editors, telling him, no, you can't have dashes?
Well, no, absolutely. I think there is that gendered power relationship does play itself out in literature in a poet-editor relationship, right? Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, this man is any number of gatekeepers, I would say, right? Potentially publisher and editor, or even just this generalized male authority that says, no, I tell you to wait.
Mhm.
The puny light. That's good. The puny light. The man can give any word but wait. Puny light. I don't know. Grammatically, it's hard to tell where that follows from.
Mm-hmm.
No man can give me any word, but is it, quote, wait, the puny light, unquote? Or is it, no man can give me any word but wait, comma,
Right.
and that's such a puny light to be given, right? The puny light. I think the punctuation is cool in this. We get a lot of periods at the beginning, and then it opens up about halfway through. It starts.
So I'd make a sorry attempt at the puny light by just saying that it is like less than inspirational. That wait and nothing much to drive me
Right.
forward.
That's I like that.
Kind of gray.
Sure. Yeah. Good. Gray, bleak, referring back to our reading of Kitchenette Building, which we'll share the poem with you. Wait, the puny light. Right. There's something dim. Something was like diminished, shadowy. Yeah, puny light. There's nothing impressive about a puny light, right? There's nothing interesting. You can't read by it. It doesn't. It's not.
It's a
illuminating.
very funny word that you don't run across.
Puny.
Puny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
it's-
I never use it. It's a good one though.
And what follows then is all one long sentence.
Yes.
From I keep eyes pointed in, all down is one big sentence.
Hoping that when the devil days of my herd drag out to their last dregs and I resume on such legs as are left me, in such heart as I can manage, remember to go home. To my taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread, old purity could love. That's quite a sentence. I keep eyes pointed in, hoping that my taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread, old purity could love. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything about the form in general that calls our attention to the sentence or how it's operated?
Let's see the rhyme scheme. We got bread, lid, will, hell.
It seems to have a rhythm that is really consistent.
So there's throughout there's a slant rhyme scheme. So I store my bread and lid are slant rhymes. Will and hell are slant rhymes. Incomplete and wait, and again and in are slant rhymes. Hurt and heart, resume and home. And then the last two lines don't rhyme at all. And then there's a pretty regular internal rhyme. And each latch and lid I bid. Lid and bid. I may dine again, no man can.
Well, and it's a sonnet. It's 14 lines.
It's a
anyway,
sonnet, right.
So So our turn would come right after the puny light.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That's your turn right there. Is I keep eyes pointed in, hoping that when the devil days of my herd. Yeah, that's the turn. She's setting up this situation in the beginning and then turns it. Less dregs and everything.
The internal rhymes are so interesting.
Dregs and legs.
Dragon legs, yeah.
Even lid and bid.
Yeah. There's so the turn is according to the strict rules of sonnet, the turn is not quite perfect. Like the turn should come in that following line, hoping that. But here it comes partway through that last line of that second quatrain. So it's kind of, it's in the middle, it's sort of cutting strangely. I think
So are you willing to say that old purity refers to a kind of form and poetic diction here?
I think there's potential for that. To honey, I hadn't thought of that actually. To honey and bread, old purity could love. Old purity.
She hopes that her taste hasn't turned insensitive to
Well,
honey
I never
and
get my
bread.
literary
Old
history
purity of
right,
love.
but, I don't hear, Gwendolyn, speaking about Napoleon.
Right.
Or,
Right.
it doesn't have the resonance, or this poem doesn't have the resonance of the more modern stuff that we've been reading.
Sure, I think that's true. And yet, she's kind of playing in the middle, right? Yeah, she's not Stein, she's not like blowing apart convention, but she's not quite writing a straightforward sonnet
No,
either.
she's
She's
certainly
making a
not
big
doing that.
point about sort of pushing back on the sonnet or being kind of just left of the dial or something on it. She's
So who's the poet in the Harlem Renaissance that writes the perfect, if we die?
Claude McKay.
Claude McKay.
Yeah, if we must die.
So, it's
Well, that's a perfect sonnet.
that,
Yeah,
it's
that one's
not like that.
But the old purity. So to take us into that ending there, my taste. Hoping that my taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread, old purity could love. What does that mean?
You tell me.
My taste will not. It's so tricky. My taste. So there's a few things. So what you said, Richard, about old purity and a kind of tradition. I like that. It makes me think that taste too, right? Like that. There's
Sure.
artistic
Poetic
taste,
taste,
poetic
yeah.
taste. That's important. But there's so much ambiguity charged in insensitive. My taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread, old purity could love. So like she hopes that she'll still be able to sense the honey and bread, old purity could love. But she's not saying whether or not she likes that. She's not saying whether she's not saying that like, oh, I hope that I still love the taste of that honey and bread that old purity could love. She's saying that like, I hope that I'll still be able to discriminate between maybe my honey and bread that I've stored away, and then the honey and bread that old purity could love. That this other somebody else's honey and bread.
Somebody else's idea.
Yeah, somebody else's ideas in a way, somebody else's will or something. So that insensitivity, like you need to stay sensitive. She hopes that after all of this, after the devil days of my hurt drag out their last dregs. She's completely drained. And she's got nothing left to go on. She just hopes that at least at the end of the day, she'll be able to discriminate between different kinds of honey and bread, or being able to discriminate.
I see insensitive as, not selecting one or making a choice about, but not abolishing it either. I don't know what it means in, her artistic choices, as we were talking about. I don't know what to compare her with. It's not a poem that I place in a canon and, oh, well, she's doing this and this is the reference.
Hey, guys, library closing in like 25 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Wrap up shortly then. You can edit that out, Zach. Sorry, what were you saying, Richard?
I forgot.
Okay.
I like the guard. He's telling us not to turn insensitive to the needs of
Right.
the library.
Taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread, purity.
Well, what did we say honey and bread was up above? You said it was
So,
her work, right?
I just,
So
you
her
know,
earlier
like,
work that she's since locked away.
whatever it is, her inner desires, that's what, my dream. So, she's writing a poem So she must have some sense of what her artistic life is going to be. And the little pieces that you accrue in life, you know, you store away and use them later. Your fathers or mothers, or,
Sure.
you know. And, you know, from that rationale, then you know, it'd be easy to say, well, not being, you know, so critical of other poetic traditions, but, you know, like, boy, do I feel like I'm making something up and just kind of stamping it on there. I know. I like the idea, though, that there's something very delicate when you say, my taste will not have turned insensitive. That is such a light touch.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, this tastes like crap.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, there's something eminently delicate about that. It's really pretty brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
My taste will not have turned insensitive. It's not my taste will still be sensitive. My taste will not have turned insensitive. So we get at the end this return to the honey and the bread in the cabinets of her will. Maybe not her honey and her bread. We don't quite get her returning from hell.
It's
She's
a
right.
time, you know, it's, you know, the guy in his phone booth got to set the time machine to come back.
Well, she's old, so when the devil days of my hurt drag out to their last dregs, she's at the end of her days, and I resume on such legs as are left me.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I get that. So
hell
home is some previous place where these desires of what you wished her artistic life to be.
in the kitchenette, potentially.
Well, she's projecting this future, maybe, right? Of it's also the past. This is going home.
So can you do the time part in terms of the title? My dreams, my works must wait till after hell.
Hell is just living, it sounds like. At the end, she's in her last days, the devil days of her hurt. And the hell was everything that came before, which was just regular life.
I guess that, you know, so in that reading, you're just taking I am very hungry as just plain hunger.
That she's just doesn't have food. That she's
Yeah,
poor,
I mean,
has
you know.
cash, yeah. That's a possibility. The firm to the return from hell. It's a tough poem.
Very hard.
I'm
It's
gonna
very
lie.
hard. It's a very difficult poem. And that I bid is certainly very Victorian, isn't it?
Yes.
I bid thee.
What's the, you know, I'm trying to think of the other poem, you know, is that, it's not Hopkins. I think it's a Renaissance poem, you know, I bid my heart to,
I'm not sure.
it's done.
You took Victorian poetry 6 times. You should know.
It's not.
This is Renaissance.
It's a done poem. Bid my heart, you know, I wish I had some
Right.
retention, but that's what the resonance of that line, you know. If I were Harold Bloom, I would cite that.
Sure, yeah. Read the whole thing, yeah. I bid to be firm till I return. Turned insensitive to honey bread. I just have a lot of trouble squaring the end here with everything else, and I think that's a big part of the point of this poem. I it wants to leave you on uneven footing, and I think that's part of the difficulty we have. I think the whole thing is it feels like this pulling you back into hell almost, right? Like between the slant rhymes that are kind of the slant rhymes that are definitely incomplete, right? The poem that are constantly letting you down a little bit, and then those internal rhymes that are just kind of dragging you back. The fact that the turn comes earlier than it ought to, that it sort of jumps the shark a little bit, and then it ends just with this completely ambiguous situation and idea. Like, I remember to go home, my taste will not have turned insensitive. It's really about, it seems to be this incompletion, right? And to go back to what you said, Richard, there's like, it seems to be constantly falling short of what you would expect to get from it, right? Which is really quite, I mean, it's heavy, as we said at the beginning. Yeah, it's a heavy thing to have this poem and to feel like it's putting you in to make you feel like it's putting you in that same position that she seems to be writing from, one of constantly coming up short, constantly not quite getting that that the light is just too puny. There's nothing to grab, there's nothing to reach for. Even when you go home, all you have is that old honey and bread.
So do you like that? Do you like the poem? I don't think it carries the same kind of,
that's a
boy breaking glass just
that's
has
true.
more punch.
Well, yeah, it has more punch, right? It's a little bit more shattering. Yeah, I don't like it as much as that poem, I'll admit. I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I read it earlier and I had trouble really getting into it, so I'm glad that we were able to take a crack at it together today, because it's a tough one. I'm not sure, it's not my favorite poem, I'll say.
There are parts of it that I really like, but just in that same vein, I'm having a hard time putting them together so that it's
I like the beat. The rhythm of it is very nice. And I like the final couplet. My taste will not have turned insensitive to honey and bread, old purity could love.
I like that.
So I do like it. Although I don't know exactly what it means, but that's a good thing.
Or we should call it there, I guess. I think that was a nice way to end, Matt. I'm not quite sure what it means, but we should call it there.